So take it away. What's
So,
Calhfa?
Yeah, Calhfa. Calhfa is an entity designed to help out low-income housing, low to get into a home essentially. Now, in the past, these programs haven't really worked in LA because of income limits. So in the past, they gave you the income limits of different zip codes. So for example, your income couldn't be more than $80,000 in Glendale, and as you know, $80,000 doesn't get you much of a home, about 200 or 300,000, and there's not really a home in Glendale that qualifies for 200 or 300,000. So they didn't work. The reason this program is so huge is because the income limits have been bumped up. It's at 180,000. Now this can work all over LA.
Sorry guys, there's an echo. You wanted the mics to get muted.
There. Is that better?
Just mute all of them. Still hear. I think it's that.
Is it this? There. Is there echo still?
I still hear something.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think it has to do with both of your mics. Is there any
Here, I just muted mine.
Mine is not there.
Oh, but you know what? We can't be mine because they have to hear it. We just work with it. Just push it far away and get it from a different angle. Sorry. All right. Is there an echo, guys? Do you guys hear an echo? Just let us know. I want to mute one of the laptop phones. Yeah, we're good. Am I blurry on Zoom? Yeah.
Is this the correct one?
Yeah. All right. So now with 180,000 being the income limit, a lot more eligibility opens up. So in LA, now you can qualify for this program. Now, normally when you want to buy a home, to take a step back, actually, normally when you want to buy a home, you need to get financed and pre-approved, and there's 3 metrics you have to meet. First is your credit. Ideally, we want to see good credit. Next is your down payment. You have to put some kind of down payment in. And then finally, there's what's called debt to income ratio. Debt to income ratio means your monthly income, a portion of it is a budget for the home loan minus credit expenses. So to give you an example, let's say you're making $10,000 a month. The bank will say, okay, 10,000 is your income. Half of that is your budget for a home loan. So 5,000 a month. Now, that's only if you have no debts. If you have a car payment or student loans or credit cards, naturally that reduces your purchasing power. So for example, if my budget is 5,000 a month because my income is 10,000 a month, and I have a car payment of $500 a month, now my budget is $4,500 a month. So that's how you traditionally qualify. Now, when you're looking to buy a home, let's say at $1 million, before, unless you have 20% down, your payment is going to be astronomically high. I mean, probably $8,000 a month because you're only coming in with the minimum payment of 3.5% down. So you're financing about $30,000 or $40,000 out of pocket, and you're borrowing $950,000 range, and your payments $8,000, $9,000 a month, which pushed a lot of buyers out of the market. There's some that could still do it, but it was hard. Now with this program coming in, what they're doing is Calhfa is giving you the 20% to be able to buy this home. Essentially, you're borrowing $800,000 and your payments are about $5,000 a month, which is huge because that opens up the window for everyone to qualify. Now, first thing everyone says, well, what's the catch? I'll go into the details of how it works. Keep in mind, this program was launched Monday. I've been through extensive training, but there's still a lot of things that are uncertain. We're trying to figure out. So please ask questions and we'll address all of them. We'll figure it all out for you and we'll make it as transparent as possible. But here's how it works. So you're buying a home. You want to buy a home for $1 million. Calhfa says, here's your 20% down. Go buy your home. Now I'm financing $800,000. My payment is effectively $8,000 a month because I'm borrowing less. I'm not paying PMI. It's huge. So what happens to that second $200,000? Well, it's essentially a silent second. There's no payments due on it. There's no interest collecting. Well, how does Calhfa make their money back? Well, keep in mind, Calhfa is a nonprofit agency, so it's self-sustaining. The proceeds of the payback go back into funding more programs like this. So how does the payment work? So I buy a home for $1 million. I get $200,000 to buy this home. Now, the way it comes back, the way they get the money back is it's called appreciation share. So for example, let's say it's been a few years. The home is worth $1.5 million. There's $500,000 of new money. That's appreciation. So Calhfa says, well, we want 20% of that new money. Well, what's 20% of $500,000? That is $100,000. So essentially, you're only paying back the $100,000 plus the initial investment, leaving you with $200,000 of new money to your name. Plus, you've paid down your mortgage over the years, so that original $800,000 balance is reduced. It's probably something like from 800 in 5-10 years, depending on how aggressive you're paying, it could be from 750 down to 700. So it's a great program. They just want a 20% split of the new money, that new appreciation, and that's it, you're done. Now, of course, what triggers these events? So let's say you refinance. So the first time you refinance, there's no triggers, there's no repayment. It's designed to let you get into the home now in the high interest rate market. Right now, the rates is around 6.5, 6.875. And in 6 months to a year, once the rates are dropping, you can refinance, and Calhfa will let you subordinate this loan program. So it's not triggering the repayment. So you can do one refinance. Afterwards, if you do any refinances going forward, or if you sell your home, or if you do any kind of title transfer, you have to essentially get a new valuation of your home, pay back the original 20% down plus 20% of any appreciation share. So that's the gist of the program. I'm going to open it up to questions, and we'll dive into it and go from there.
I can actually ask a question that I was asked.
Yeah.
What's the highest price point that they can purchase for a home?
Great question. So it's based on LA County's, well, any county really, your loan limits for the county. In LA County, your loan limits are $1,089,300. So that means you could borrow up to $1,089,000. So if you were to put 20% down, what does that equate to as far as the purchase price? That's approximately 1.2 million, 1.25 million, in that range. So essentially, you can buy a home at 1.2 million, get your 20% down, finance just under the conventional loan limits, and those are your limits. Yeah, pretty straightforward.
Okay. Yeah. Let me actually go in and get some of the questions here, if that's okay.
Brian, thanks for joining.
So we discussed how the program works. We discussed the loan limits. Your income is limited to $180,000 a year. So you cannot make more than $180,000 a year. So how does that work? Let's say you have a salary of $140,000 a year, but you have a ton of overtime. And the past few years, you've been killing it. And this year, it's been a little hard. So last year, maybe you were at 220. This year, you're not earning your overtime. You can actually qualify. So here's how it works. Let me not confuse you guys. So the way income is calculated is you get the maximum base salary that you're earning today. So for example, let's say I'm earning $150,000 a year, but I also get a bonus, I get a commission, I get overtime for the past few years, inflating my income to $220,000. So I would think that I wouldn't qualify for this program. But if your income is trending downwards, or if your employers stop paying you overtime, or if you just don't earn overtime anymore and we don't see that in the future, then that's eliminated and we're only using the base income and you'll qualify. A question just came in. What's the lowest income that will qualify? I mean, the income drives your purchasing power, so there's no minimum income. It's just what you'll qualify for. So to recap, the purchasing power is determined by your income. So if you're making $10,000 a month, your budget for a home loan is half of that. So $5,000 a month is your purchasing power. Now, what does a $5,000 a month home get you with 20% down? Upwards of $8 to $1 million, depending on the rate, depending on a few dynamics of the loan. So the minimum income is really determining your purchasing power. So if you're making $30,000 a year, unfortunately, there's not really a home you can qualify for unless you go out towards the desert areas where the homes are priced $100,000, $200,000. And this program will work. But again, we have to just fine tune the income to make it work for that price point. Do I have to be a first-time buyer? What happens if people already have a couple mortgages on their credit? You have to be a first-time buyer. There's no way to get around it. So if you're co-signed for someone, if your name was on Indeed, it eliminates you from qualifying for this program. You have to make sure that your name has never been on a mortgage for the past 3 years, plus title. So you cannot own any homes. You can't be a co-signer. The home cannot be a multi-unit. So I know a lot of you guys are going, light bulb, let me buy a fourplex, let me buy something with an ADU. You can't do it. This is genuinely designed for no one to get rich off of. It's just to get you into a home. It has to be a single family residence or condo. So you can't have a granny house. You can't co-sign with your grandparents and buy a property with, a back house for the mother-in-law, the grandma, the grandparents. It has to be you living in the home by yourself. Whoever's on the loan has to live in it. So I've had some creative ideas hit me saying, well, my cousin lives out of state. Can she co-sign? No. You have to have, everyone on the loan has to live in LA or in this home that you're buying. And the combined income has to be less than $180,000.
So to actually piggyback off of that, my question is, and I had this asked before, is what if it's a detached garage? Mm-hmm. Can they make this into an ADU or no?
If it's a detached garage and it's not an ADU, it's just a garage. It's detached garage. It's just a garage. That's fine. Whatever you do after you buy the home, that's up to you. But during the purchase, as long as it's not identified an ADU, okay. There's no permits pulled, there's no gas, plumbing, there's no electricity. Okay. Well, outside of just lights for regular electricity for a garage, that's fine. So
Okay.
Yes. That's fine.
So they'll pay back the loan,
Mhm.
whatever, and plus whatever's appreciated, and then after that, hey, they could rent it out, they could do whatever. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
you have to live in it for 1 year. Afterwards, you're
okay.
welcome to do what you need to do with renting it. And yeah, so 12
1 year.
months. Yeah,
Oh, nice.
yeah.
That's,
I'm getting
that's
clarification on it. From what I read, it
Yeah.
was 12 months that you have to live in there. I'll double check. I'll put out an updated guideline on it, but from my understanding, it's 12 months. A few questions come in, so let me address these. So, do I have to be a first-time buyer? What happens if I already have a couple of mortgage on my credit report? We already talked about that. What if you're a first-time home buyer, but your partner is not? Great news. You can actually buy a home. So, for example, let's say I'm married, I have a house, but my wife doesn't have a house on her name or title. Again, I'm going to double check the clarifications on this because there wasn't clear directions from Calhfa. But technically speaking, you're not on title and your name's never been on a mortgage, so you should qualify. Again, I'm going to find out for you guys and clarify this. But yes, that is correct. If your partner's never had a mortgage under their name or title, they will qualify. We just have to exclude you on the loan, and everything will be under their name.
They're asking, but can you build an ADU later?
Knock yourself out. Build the ADU after you buy a home. Go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, especially after you said that 1 year, and they're pretty much good.
Yeah,
to do whatever.
they're pretty much get to do whatever they want.
I actually have a question too. Was
Sure.
They asked, what if they purchased a home, and they don't want to sell. What happens?
So you buy the home.
The refinance.
Yeah. So you buy the home. You don't want to sell it. Well, let's play it out. So at some point, you either want to refinance, but if the 30 years comes up, you've paid off the first mortgage. Calhfa is going to reach out to you, say, "Hey, congratulations, you paid off your first mortgage. Now it's time to address this silent second, this 20% you borrowed the whole time." So what they'll do is they'll do an assessment of your home, and whatever they value it at, they want 20% of the appreciation based on the new value minus the old purchase price, plus their original payment back. So you can essentially do a cash out refinance, pay it off, and then extend your loan if you haven't been able to, build up that kind of cash to pay off that debt. Now, another question came up last week was, well, what if I just want to aggressively pay that 20% down?
Right.
You can. So you can make payments to your principal and interest on your normal mortgage. Plus, you can pay down that principal balance on that second loan, the 20%. But the moment you start getting close to paying off, Calhfa will reach out to you again. They'll say, "Hey, you're about to pay this off." That's going to trigger you to repay this whole balance back based on the current appraised value. So you need to be diligent and time it correctly to make sure that ideally you time it where the market's down so you're not paying any appreciation on it, and you either refinance or you trigger that event at that point, and hopefully you're in a better cash position so you could just pay off the original debt with minimal appreciated value so you maximize on the assets that you have. So that's one way to do it. Yeah.
So we have someone asking, am I a first-time buyer if my name is on the mortgages, but I already transferred my name out of the deed 5 years ago?
So 3 years is the waiting period. So if you haven't had your name on title for 3 years, you're okay. But if your name is still on the mortgage, you disqualify. You have to be off of the mortgage for 3 years as well. So that whenever you're buying a home, there's what's called a deed and a note. The note is your name tied to the mortgage. The deed is your name tied to the property. You need to make sure both these documents have been at least 3 years or more. I'm getting more clarification on this, but my understanding is it's 3 year waiting period. See if I have any questions on my end over here.
South is checking. I did get a question about let me see. Okay. What if I want to make a down payment? What if I want to make a down payment? I saw 0%. And what if I was at, okay, first answer that.
Yes.
Sorry.
So what if I want to make down payment?
Yeah.
So if you're in a position to put a down payment, you're welcome to. The maximum you could put on top of the 20% is 10%. So if you wanted to have a lower payment, borrow less money, you can. You can inject 10% of your own cash into this purchase, essentially giving you a 30% down for the home. Now, I'm waiting for clarification on one very important piece, and it's the pricing and how, if you need to bring in any financing costs yourself. Now, my understanding is you need to, regardless, bring 1% of your own funds. So that's a huge caveat as well. So to buy this, you can't just do it with zero out of pocket. There's closing costs. There's a few costs associated with it, but you do have to bring 1% of your own funds. And we're waiting to find out about the pricing. So depending on how it all works out, I'll let you know. I'll do a full breakdown of pricing. I'll have it up on my screen, my Instagram story. I'll send it out an email to everyone. Scenario live with pricing, all of the details. But you do have to bring in 1% of your own funds.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this one's a little tricky one. It's a little bit of a detailed one. So
Let's try.
here we go. If I was at 110K last year in taxes, and this year I'm at 36K due to disability, and disability is not taxed, hence the low income. So in that scenario,
What
would she
happens?
qualify?
Now,
What happens? What happens? Yeah.
is that 30,000 from the disability income?
36,000, yes, from disability, and she wrote in parentheses, disability is not taxed.
And are you going to be going back to work?
No.
No. So what happens is, because now again, banks look at everything
The
as risk.
36K is what she made.
She made. Well, what is she earning now?
So she's gonna, I'm going to go to work, but not, okay, just give me a second. Okay, so 36K is from the disability, is what she made. Okay, sorry, she's.
I think I know where she's going with it. I'm going to answer it, but be very specific for her as well. So whenever you have income, right? Again, banks look at everything based on risk. So you have income. Let's say she's making 100,000 a year, or you're making 100,000 a year, and this applies to all loans, right? I make 100,000 a year. I either A, want to quit my job and start a new job. B, I'm having a baby, for example, not me, of course, but a woman having a baby, and or something happens, you're on disability. Well, what happens? That income's just gone. Well, not necessarily. So as long as you have a contract where you have a new job in place, so you have a hire letter, you have, or even pay stubs if you already started, a hire letter. What we do is there's two things. Either you get your pay stubs, you will get me the 30 days of the new pay stubs, which are new employer. As long as it's the same line of work, the income's similar, it makes sense, I could qualify you. Or if you have a hire letter saying that you're going to start in 2 months, we'll look at your cash reserves. There's a formula to it, but generally, if your cash reserves covers your mortgage payment up until that hire date, you're okay. Up until actually it's not the hire date, it's up from the first mortgage due date. So the way it's calculated is the first mortgage due date, you need to make sure that you have enough cash to float you along until you're hired. So yes, that's possible. But
Okay.
for the specific scenario.
Okay. So 36K is what she made this year, and 110K is what she made last year. Is what she's.
So unfortunately, the bank would give you the lower income. Even though we understand your situation, the bank is looking at it from risk. Even though you're out of work due to unforeseen reasons, we can't give you that income from the previous year because you're not earning it now. However, if you could show a letter, if you can show some kind of documentation that you're going to be back at work at an X date, that formula applies. We need to look at your cash reserves to make sure you qualify for a house again, based on your income.
Okay, got it. She's not at work. She's on leave. She's just clarifying.
Now, anytime you have taxable or non-taxable income, Social Security or disability, we can actually gross that income up. Off the top of my head, I think it's 125% of your income because it's not taxed. So if I'm making $10,000 a month for disability, we know it's not that much, but for numbers' sake, I could use $12,000 and $500 as income.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for clarifying.
Of course.
Any other questions, guys?
Questions up here. Oh, you know what? I'm missing out on my side. I have a bunch of. Like that. Loan. Hey, Linda. You need to make. You're like, okay, there's an echo. That's fine. We got that taken care of. Cool. Yeah, no questions. Well, this does wrap it up. Last chance for questions. Otherwise, I'll get more information. I'm going to host these webinars weekly. I want to make sure that everybody that has the capacity makes income, gets into home. So we're going to be sharing as much information as possible to help everyone out and be as transparent as possible. If you want to call me, do a one-on-one, we'll be happy to do that as well. We're going to be working throughout the weekend, throughout the week. This is going to be a hot program. It's not going to last long. Okay, so it just hit me a couple of things that are important. So
yeah, that's what I was going to say.
The proceeds, right? Okay, so there's $300 million in available funds for this program. So we don't anticipate about roughly 2 to 3,000 families being helped. So how does this work? Where is the money coming from? So you get into escrow, right? Your offer gets accepted. here's where it's important, and you need to, if there's agents looking, you need to be specific with your contract, right?
Right.
So your offer gets accepted. What we do is we take your financials, we submit it to underwriting, plus we submit it to Calhfa. So there's about a week to 2 week process where they come back to us saying, yes, your funds are guaranteed, and they'll give us a stamp of approval, and we know that you're done. You don't have to worry about it anymore. The first month, I don't see any issues, but month number 2, there might be a possibility. I'll give you a scenario. Your offer gets accepted, you're ready to move forward, and we get the contract, we submit it to underwriting, and then we come back to Calhfa, and they come back and say, sorry, we just ran out of funds.
Right.
So you're not going to be able to qualify anymore. We have to look at alternative methods of financing with your own funds. You don't qualify for this program anymore. So you need to make sure you have contingencies in place so you don't lose out on your earnest money deposit. That's a key thing. So if you guys are interested in this, move on it quickly. Go to my website, getmepreapproved.com. Go through the questionnaire, apply. Once you're qualified, I'll reach out to you. We'll go through the scenarios particularly for you. We'll give you a pre-approval letter. Go shopping for home ASAP, because I don't think these funds will last more than about a month to 2 months max.
Yeah, that's another thing is like, make sure your realtor is connected to the right lender. That way they know what to do in this scenario. You know, Armand is telling us, hey, we need to put a contingency in place. If your realtor doesn't put a contingency in place, then you might just be out of luck when it comes down to escrow. And then speaking of escrow, Armand, that means that technically we get into escrow and then we're applying. Right?
Correct.
Right.
So you have to be in escrow. So for example, you can't just assume that you have the money. So you don't get it's not like a car loan. So, you know, some car loans, you get pre-approved for a car loan. They send you the cash and you're like, go have fun, go find a house.
Right.
Doesn't work that way. You're getting a pre-approval. It's just a commitment to lend, right?
Mm-hmm.
So once your offer is accepted, we take your application, we submit to Calhfa based on the information you provided. Then they come back and they say your approval, you have your funds ready to go. So just keep that in mind. There's one more thing I wanted to go over. It just hit me, but I forgot. But
I do have something.
Yeah.
How do they apply? Like, how does this whole process start?
Yeah, getmepreapproved.com. So you either reach out to me and I'll send you a personalized link, but I have a fun website. It's called getmepreapproved.com. It's a very
Awesome
intuitive
website.
Yeah, it's an awesome website, intuitive. So as you fill out the application, you know, your name, email address, and your employer, it'll say, hey, you're self-employed, I need these tax returns. Or you work at, you know, Disney, or you work at, you know, a big company. We just need your pay stubs. We need your ID. We need your tax returns. And you'll upload all those accordingly. Once I have it, we can qualify you. A question came in. Can I do this with non-full doc? It has to be full doc. So traditionally, we're, you know, as a PRMG, we're a direct lender, we're a broker, we have access to many products. I'm known as the self-employed pro because I work with a lot of self-employed buyers. They don't show the tax return income. Investors, they don't show the income. You can't use this program unless you show the income on taxes. So it has to be full doc. It cannot be any kind of alternative loan program.
So my question is, okay, so they know the applying process, getmeapproved.com.
Getmepreapproved.com.
Getmepreapproved.com. So as far as getting the process started, we would need to start shopping for a home and then get into escrow. I mean, first of all, of course, they need
I mean, at the end of the day, you do want to start looking at homes. You want to see what you like. You want to see, you know, the backyard, the kitchen, what.
But you have to get pre-approved.
But you have to get pre-approved because at the end of the day, you're kind of, you know, getting excited, working up your emotions. But what if you don't qualify, or what if it doesn't work out for you, or what if the numbers don't make sense? So definitely, you know, if you want to go look at homes, knock yourself out. I mean, please do. But it's important.
Get pre-approved first.
Get pre-approved. Let's know your numbers. Otherwise, you're wasting your own time. You're going all around town, and you might not work. It might not work out for the house. So do get pre-approved. Real quick, my Zoom is saying that's going to cut out very soon. I have 2 minutes remaining. So if I do cut out, please jump over onto Instagram Live. We're going to just carry this on until everyone's answers or questions are answered.
Can people buy houses anywhere in California?
I could finance you anywhere in the country outside of New York. This program is only for California. So if you want to take advantage of this down payment assistance, it's only California. However, should you want to buy a house out of state, more than happy to help you with that entire process.
Can you tell us what your opinion on this whole thing is? Do you think it's a good idea? What are the negatives, like potential negatives?
Yeah. So you know what it is? It's an opportunity to get into a home. At the end of the day, yes, you're doing an 80-20 split with Calhfa. You're keeping 80% of the profits. You're giving them 20%. it's a no-brainer. I mean, I can't see a perspective of why I wouldn't want to do this outside of my payments are just too high and I can't afford it. Look, even if 5,000 or 6,000 a month is a lot for you and you're living paycheck to paycheck, maybe you should either reconsider a smaller priced home, different location, or just hold off till later. And unfortunately, just not take advantage of this program. But the key thing is affordability. If you can afford these payments, it doesn't make sense not to do this, because in 5 or 10 years, at the end of the day, even if after you pay back that 20% appreciation plus the original money, you're coming up ahead. You're coming up and you have cash in your hand that you have never had in your hands before. So that, for example, let's say you buy a home for $1 million, you sell it for 1.5 million in 10 years. That's $300,000 of money, net money in your pocket that you wouldn't have had before. So it makes sense to do this. You should be doing this. I'm pushing everyone I know to do this and get into it and start the process. So I have a lot of close friends that I've been reaching out to and talking to about it. Yeah. I believe in this program so much.
Yeah. And honestly, like, it's a great program. I'm getting a lot of questions about it and interest as well. Hence why, kind of piggybacking